I think it's hard for the general public to stand up for sex workers because they're gonna get backlash. When I read comments on articles about sexual assault happening to sex workers, it breaks my heart because a lot of the people say, well, she's a sex worker, you know, like, you know, she gets fucked for money. Why can't I like grab her right now? Which makes no sense. If you are going to run into a UFC fighter on the street, you're not gonna punch him in the face and say, that's your job, right? We just need to teach people to be respectful of anyone, no matter what. It's mostly about human decency and moral law. Like, what is your morality? My name is Ginger Banks, and I've been a sex worker for 8 years. When my dad found out, he immediately said, is someone forcing you to do this? Because it's easier to think of that and accept that than it is to realize that your independent, intelligent daughter decided to go into the sex work industry. Eventually I decided to stop pursuing my chemical engineering degree and do webcamming full time.
I couldn't do anything without my fans. Mwah!
And it took a while until I got rid of the shame that I had for my job. When I was lying about my job as a sex worker, that was when I was the most depressed because deep down I knew there was nothing wrong with being a sex worker, but I had to hide it and I had to lie to people about my job, and that made me feel terrible. I mean, there are people who probably respect drug dealers that shoot and kill people more than they do sex workers because sex is so negatively viewed still by such a large percentage of the country. There are multiple ways in which society treats sex workers as second-class citizens. With the increase in camming and clip sites, the odds that you know a sex worker is probably at the highest it's ever been. And they have to keep it a secret because y'all would treat them like shit if you found out, let's be real. And that's not cool. There are mothers who have had their children taken away from them. There are banks and other institutions that have shut down sex workers' accounts. When I finally got rid of that shame, I feel like I've become the best performance artist I could have possibly become. We are just like any other part of society. In the end, we're all just people who want to provide for themselves and for their families. I personally believe that the stigma contributes to people's struggles, and that's what contributes to people's depression. You hear people in your family say things, you hear your best friends say things, and it's heartbreaking. And you try and tell yourself, there's nothing wrong with what you do, but if people are constantly saying that you deserve to be raped and stuff like that, it's hard. Nobody can handle that. A human can't handle that. When you lose hope, when people tell you you're always gonna be a slut, no one's gonna love you, how do you feel? How can you not get discouraged and somehow want to numb that feeling? After August Ames passed away, one of her fans posted this video that was all of the negative comments that she received. And it was so shocking to see, and they were saying things about sex workers that I cannot imagine people saying to our faces and not being able to see how it hurts us and it affects us. And you see that every single day. That is why it's so important to be a part of a community within sex workers, because society at large treats us like shit. And it sucks. It hurts.
There can never be another Avian Awards show that has a memorial full of young women. Ever again.
I think when Kevin Moore was giving his speech, it was silent in the room. We all have the same goal in mind. Nobody wants to see another girl or guy go through something like this because of the way they are treated. It's important to remember that what you do online is the same stuff you should be doing in real life. You shouldn't be screaming at someone and treating them poorly just because they disagree with you. You should be having a conversation with them and maybe trying to get them to see your point of view. It seems like it's porn's problem, but it's not. It's society's problem. President Trump just signed a bill that will cause sex workers to die. Full-service sex workers are already at a higher risk of being murdered due to their job. Taking away their resources to screen through violent clients is just going to make that worse. They are going to accept money from people they normally would not because they don't have the ability to screen them. And this is going to cause the murder of sex workers. If you think that people being forced into sex work is going to stop when we make these safeguards, that is insane. These anti-sex trafficking groups are actually anti-prostitution groups if you look and you actually go in to see what they are doing. The reason that they call themselves anti-trafficking groups is because if they called themselves anti-prostitution groups, all of us who are sex workers would be very openly speaking about it, saying that's wrong. When they call it sex trafficking, I can't speak up against that or else I sound like I'm saying that you should be sold into sex slavery, which is not at all what we're saying. We're saying you should not be conflating sex trafficking to legal consensual sex work. And if we make it safe for people to do sex work, we are going to be making it safer for these people to come forward who are being forced into this industry. We need to make it decriminalized so people can come forward when they're being forced to do it. And the reason that we want decriminalization and not legalization is because it is our body. Once we legalize it, the state tells us when and where and how we can use our body, and that is not what we want as sex workers. It is proven statistically in countries where it is decriminalized that society benefits from it. STD rates go down. So many positive things come from it. My goal in life is to help change the stigma surrounding sex work. And I say help because there's no way I can do it by myself. If we don't have any allies outside of the industry, nothing is ever gonna change. It is important to see us as people because that's what we are.